Did he break his leg? Did he break his hip? What's going on? Slowly, quietly, Rob said, "Your dad fell down and he died." In that moment, the bottom dropped out and all went dark. The world as I had known it from the start had changed forever. Then in a flash, I knew that my dad and I were fine. We had made a living amends to one another. But then another reality washed over me. How was I going to take care of my mother? My dad's last great act was serving as her caregiver. I'm an only child, so that job was all of a sudden mine. Now, my mom and I loved each other, but it had been a long while since we actually liked each other. She and I were close when I was a kid. She was big A, I was little a, and those names carry on today. But triangles are tricky, and alignments shift and change. And as an adult, my dad and I became best friends, while Big and I drifted further and further apart. And it's not as if some major event created this wall between us. We simply resented each other. She was not the person I wanted her to be, and I was not the person she wanted me to be. And, you know, my husband would only further reinforce that story whenever he would say, "You're just like your mother." So there was plenty of fuel for me to craft a story wherein it I had inherited all of my strengths and assets from my dad, William Atlas Weir Jr., while all of my less than savory qualities came directly from my mom, Adrienne Wehr Sr., my namesake. So it finally came time for Rob and I to take my mother back to her Florida home. She was, you know, kind of moving about in a stoic haze, and I couldn't figure out where she was. And was she lost in shock? Was she detached? Was she cold? Why couldn't we grieve together? I needed her. Didn't she need me for more than just helping her with the practical aspects of living beyond her husband's death? But then, one evening, as I lay in bed, my mother sat alone in the kitchen, and she choked out an aching cry of abject devastation as she shouted to no one but everyone, "I'm still here." Now, as my mom's grief poured out at last, I didn't go to her. For years, I had stood on one side of a threshold, held back by fear and resentment, unwilling to cross it towards my mother. But this moment was different, and as I truly listened to her pain, a sort of spiritual awakening flooded my being, and I knew exactly what I had to do. I had to change, break the dance, be the one to practice the golden rule and meet my mother with all those qualities I longed for her to meet me with. Unconditional love, acceptance, patience, tolerance, encouragement, kindness, generosity, support. Whether or not her behavior changed didn't matter. Mine would, and from that moment on, it was time to put those resentments to rest, cross that threshold at long last, and forgive her, and greet her with love, compassion, and grace. And that's been my practice with my mom for the last 8 years. Big A, who is soon to turn 88, still pushes many of my buttons, and I do not do this practice perfectly, but every day offers the opportunity to practice again. I love that she and I have grown to know each other and like each other while she's still here. And I now see that many of my good qualities do come from her. A few years back, I shared, "Mom, I got to audition for a Kennywood commercial today, and I told the story of how afraid I was of roller coasters, but how I got over that fear by riding the racer with Dad the first time he took me there." "Oh, honey," she laughed, "that wasn't your dad, that was me. He was always away on business. I'm the one who took you and your friends to Kennywood and everywhere else." It was absolutely shocking to recognize that I had, at some point, totally annihilated her from my memory. My dad died taking out the garbage. He left the trash behind. That, along with 2 pieces of chocolate cake that he left on the counter, that he and my mom would not have the chance to enjoy together. And the greatest and most loving gift of all, the one that he tried with all the might of his middle name Atlas to give us while here, he gave us by leaving first.